Welcome to When Not Yet Becomes Right Now, the podcast where we dive deep into the moments of transformation, the times when not yet shifts into right now and everything changes. I'm your host, Jen Ginty, and this podcast is all about those pivotal moments in our life journeys. You know the ones, when the hesitation fades, when we take that first step, even if it feels like a leap. It's in these moments that growth and healing begins. Each episode will explore stories of resilience, moments of clarity, and the sparks that ignite real change. From personal experiences to expert insights, we'll uncover how people navigate the complex journey we call life and come out stronger on the other side. Whether you're searching for that spark in your own life or just curious about how change unfolds for others, you're in the right place. We'll discuss the ups and downs, the breakthroughs and setbacks, and how to embrace the right now, even when it feels out of reach. Because sometimes the hardest part of the journey is realizing that the moment you've been waiting for has already arrived. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's get started. Trigger warning. This episode includes discussions of suicide attempts, suicidality, and child sexual abuse. These topics can be deeply distressing, so please listen with care and prioritize your well-being. If you need support, consider reaching out to a trusted friend, therapist, or crisis resource such as the 988 hotline. You are not alone. Hello and welcome to When Not Yet Becomes Right Now. I have a fabulous guest on today, my friend, and I met him through New England Podcasters, and he's an award-winning podcaster. The name of his show is Real Men Feel, and I'm going to introduce him. So Andy Grant is a best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and transformational energy coach dedicated to helping others find their light. As a suicide prevention activist, founder of Real Men Feel, Andy encourages men to break free from emotional isolation. With certifications in positive psychology, Akashic Records, Reiki, and more, he blends energy healing with personal growth. A survivor of multiple suicide attempts, Andy's mission is to show people that life is meant to be magnificent. So we are going to explore resilience, healing, and the power of emotional authenticity today with Andy. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here, Jen. Been looking forward to this for a while. Ever since you announced this podcast into existence, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to be on this.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Let's jump into it. What is your origin story?
Well, I really wish I had some cool gamma ray lab experiment thing, and perhaps in the cosmic sense, there is a lab experiment aspect to this, but yeah. So I'm gonna really start at the beginning. My parents were high school sweethearts. My mom got pregnant in college, so they got married. Um, they only lasted like 4 or 5 years together. I have no memories of a family. First thing I remember is, my dad and police at the door, and it was a very acrimonious divorce. I was an only child, and so at the same time, my dad has been removed from the house, and it involved police and lawyers, and it was pretty ugly. Next door neighbor started molesting me.
Mm.
And I thought I think I was 5 or 6 years old, that if I told anyone, I'd be the next man kicked out of the house.
Mm.
So from an early age, I decided that the world wasn't safe. I couldn't trust people, especially men. And my dad would often talk about how high school were the best years of his life. And as an adult looking back, I realized he was 21 years old saying that. Like, that's all he had. But so I grew up thinking that, like, well, why would anyone live beyond the best years? Again, so I can clearly remember fourth grade, fifth grade, as I don't know why, but people in school started talking about how they would want to die, I would never want to drown or things like that. And I didn't share it, but in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to die by my own hand. I will die before I graduate high school. Now, of course, with that mindset, depression and pessimism and apathy was all there. So, I didn't make it to high school before I first tried to kill myself. And, I believed that I was so broken, just so flawed. I never tried to get help. I just tried to die. And as early as 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, and then finally at age 19, I had attempted to kill myself using a means that already had not worked, but I tried that again, and I just started. I remember just when I realized it's still not working, and I'm just but like I don't know how to live, I don't know how to die. I'm just such a mess. I can't get anything right. And it was really probably the first time I wasn't raised with any sort of religion or spirituality or anything, but I might for the first time I was really like pleading to whatever a God might exist just to help me because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I'm desperate and I'm obviously like something's making me stick around here and I don't know what to do with that. And for the first time, I had this other voice, this other presence, something else was there. Um, because my normal voice was like, "You suck, kill yourself, you can't even do it right." And then, so this was a much softer, gentler voice, and it told me that if I shared my story, it would all be worth it. Now, my parents loved me all the time. They had tried getting me. I saw a child psychologist at age 12. I'd been put on meds at 15 and 16. Um, but I never shared. I shared enough to play the game. I was, I told any counselor enough to give them, oh, such progress. And like, I was just playing the game. But finally, after that message was the first time I went into a hospital willing to open up about everything.
Mm.
And that was the first time that I had the conscious memories of the molestation. I had blocked all that out. So, and I remember thinking when that happened, I was like, oh, everything's fine now. Like I know the root cause. I'm gonna be like, and it didn't work like that. Um, you know, there weren't any attempts through college. When I finally went to college, I had 2 years of just bumming around and trying to off myself between high school and college. I finally went to college, and again, I would make plans and have, well, before graduation, I'll come here and I'll enjoy stuff, but then I'll kill myself still. Um, and that was kind of this thinking that became my default mechanism. Whenever I can remember like getting a flat tire, and my first response was like, I'm gonna freaking jump into traffic and get rid of this. I'm just like, everything was too much.
Yeah.
Like I had so many final straws. It was ridiculous.
I keep nodding my head because we have such similar stories. It's amazing like we're parallel in our journeys, it feels like.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I hear that from a lot of people,
Mm.
and so because I find that the best way to prevent suicide is to talk about suicide. When I was a kid, the only time I met anyone else talking about wanting to die was in a mental hospital.
Yep.
So that just made it seem even more crazy and foreign and wrong. But it's not. It's very rare. Like I've met maybe 3 or 4 people in my life that claim to have never had a suicidal thought.
Wow.
And when I meet people that, if they, especially it's parents that lost a child to suicide, they'll often be struggling with like, trying to understand it. And I always tell them, don't. If you can understand why he died, celebrate that. Like there's no, don't try to get in there. But and again, in my experience, and I'm careful to say now that I believed I wanted to die. But it's really that I convinced myself that people would be better off with me gone. Um, my dad would often my dad is in his attempts to tell me how much he loved me would say like he wanted to go to Woodstock but I was born so he didn't, and he wanted to be an outlaw biker but he couldn't because I was there, and it was all to like he didn't do all these other crazy things because he loved me so much. But what I took was I've destroyed my dad's dreams.
Yeah.
And again, this burden, this again this broken, unlovable, unfixable mess of a person. And oh, I finally, actually, when I met my wife and got married and was really trying to right the ship for good, and
Mhm.
very into personal growth and energy work and all these things. Because people would always tell me that, Andy, the suicidal stuff, it's not even you. It's not even your energy. It's other things. I'm like, great. What the hell does that mean? Like I was not raised with any of this stuff, but my grandfather and great grandmother both died by suicide.
Wow.
So I felt like Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, that it's my destiny. I really thought those thoughts came back because I'm supposed to act on them.
Hmm.
And I'm very glad that I was wrong.
I am too.
Yeah, but I grew up. My worldview is life sucks, then you die.
Yeah.
That was it. I look forward to nothing. Um, and that's what, so I recently just got back from Africa where I bungee jump and I visited this place on top of Victoria Falls, the largest waterfall in the world called Devil's Pool. We can just sit right at the edge, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done. But there's such this weird, like I've stood on buildings wanting to jump to my death, and something didn't let me do it. And it's so different when I'm standing on the edge of this bridge in Africa, 111 meters from the bottom of a gorge. There's just like I felt safe, and this is just fun. It's such a weird, different thing, but I don't know if growing up suicidal makes me like more fearless than the average person. Because yeah, I don't fear death. Like I don't want to mess it up, and that's what kept me from lots of suicidal plans, and I wouldn't take actions because I didn't want to injure myself. Again, I believed I wanted to die, but I definitely did not want to just harm myself and make things worse.
Yes.
So that kept me on the straight and narrow for, many years at times. But I know I'm bouncing all over the place. So in 2009, I followed this guy named David Morelli online, and he did a guided meditation, and it was all about welcoming energy and pouring gold into you and through your body. And I felt energy coming out. I felt like Iron Man, like shooting lasers. I'm like, what is this? This is not a meditation. I thought a meditation meant, nothingness.
Right.
So this was a very different thing. And I just knew that whenever this guy teaches, whatever he's doing, I'm doing this. And so 2 years later, he taught a year-long energy coaching program. And the first half of it was all just clearing out other people's energies, getting everything out of your own system and getting to be your true self. And that's why I did it. I didn't even realize it was a coaching program. I just went into like this self-help program. But halfway through that, I'm finding out that other participants are like fighting to work with me and team up with me. The word is spreading that I'm really like good at this. And that's what started the being of service to people. And being taught to read energy means I can tune in, and someone might tell their story, and I could just, oh no, here's the root is over here. You can stop talking. The energy's right here. Let's just remove that from your space, right? So everything I do now with people it's truly something I learned to save my life. And along the way, I tried a lot of things that didn't work. For a year, I was a card-carrying Scientologist in Boston, because I so wanted to feel normal. And I thought normal people were like always happy. I thought like Ned Flanders was a typical like just wokley dokley and everything's great. Just I thought that was reality, and it's not.
No.
But so reality is always going to be an emotional roller coaster. But as I use the tools that I've learned, and as I'm of service and helping other people, my highs get higher and my lows are higher. So my worst day this year is better than my best day 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's healing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it used to piss me off that it doesn't stop. Like, why can't I be done? There's more. Like, and now I get it like, oh good, there's more. Because that means there's still a point to be here.
Right.
Yeah. When people complain about why I have to keep doing this, like it shouldn't be, I done all the work. I'm like, well, if that was true, you'd be gone.
Right.
Yeah.
I tell people, they'll ask me, where are you in your healing journey? And I'll say, in the middle. And 10 years from now, I'll say, in the middle. Yeah. That's just what healing is, especially from what we've been through. Our complex PTSD changed our brains, changed our body chemistry. We live that trauma every day. So healing isn't just a like one and done for us.
Yeah. And that used to piss me off so much. But again, it's one of the things I used to think being right was the most important thing, but I'll take happiness over being right all the time. So I love this guy. Oh, I was wrong about that. Oh, that belief was total bullshit. Great. Right. It's freeing.
Yes.
But I remember, the first time I ever did holotropic breath work in this big ballroom of like 200 people, and I didn't even know what it was called. I was at this week-long meditation retreat. The first thing I ever gone to, I think it was 2006. It was with Centerpoint. They make Holosync, which is how I learned to meditate. You just put on these It's audio technology that just makes your brain
Oh,
vibrate at meditation.
ooh,
So
that
it's
sounds
super.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a lot out of that. But so this holotropic breath work, just you take in a lot of, you breathe fast and without pause, and it puts you into an altered state. And for the first time, I mourned that I had survived multiple uh, murder attempts.
Wow.
That really, oh, it wasn't, I remember feeling like so high and just like soaring. It was almost like a stereotypical acid trip, like running through the sky, and I feel like I'm in a Pink Floyd video or something. And then I'd hear other people in the room start howling and crying and wailing. And someone had warned me it'll sound like a mental asylum at times. And I remember them saying that, and then I started bawling because I know what a mental asylum sounds like. And so I was going like that, cycling through these highs of what an amazing experience. I'm so glad to be alive, to like, oh my God, I tried to throw this away. So this went on for 3 hours. When it finally ends, I didn't want to, I was my phone. They made me open my eyes, and I was like the last person in the room because I didn't want to leave this magical place that I had never experienced. But I came out of that. I wrote letters of apology to my mother, to my father, and to myself. And I sent all three of us a bouquet of roses as
Oh,
an apology for all the pain I had put everybody through. And it was kind of the first time, again, I said I mourned the experience and I took responsibility for it. That's another thing. I used to just be terrified of responsibility because I thought that meant blame.
yeah.
Um, but only when I take responsibility for my life can I improve it.
Right. Right. So let's go back a little bit. This has come up a lot in the episodes that I've been doing. This discussion of our mental health and how we don't really allow ourselves to be open about that to others. And, it's a societal thing. One of the things that I've found is that a lot of people are like, thank you for talking about going inpatient, going into the hospital and doing the work that you needed to do, because so many people are so afraid of going inpatient. And yeah, it can be scary, but it also is very, I would say, uplifting in the sense that I don't fear where I'm at and what I might do.
Mm. Yeah. I was like 23 years old, and it was the first time I put myself into a mental hospital without making an attempt on my life. I was like, because every time I made an attempt on my life, things got better.
Hmm.
And I had this weird connection that's how it works. All right, if I'm ill, I've got to do something bad, and then good things will happen. Like, so I remember it was I felt like such a doofus saying it, but I felt like an adult. Like, oh, I'm taking care of myself. And I went to the emergency room, said I really was struggling with suicidal. And they just, as insurance has changed, they hit me for 3 days and then sent me back to no circumstances changed in those 3 days, but
Right.
at least the pressure was really off. Again, I find that telling someone my plans, my thoughts, and they don't run away is often all it needs. That is the diffusion. That's the release that I've needed.
Hmm.
Because I always thought if people knew how I really felt, how dark I was inside, nobody would want to be around me.
Yeah, I understand that feeling.
And it was in high school. I made an attempt, a senior year in high school, and because I was terrified. Again, I'd always thought I would die before graduation, and class rankings came out, and we had a class of like 320, and I was ranked third in my class, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like this is ridiculous. I'm not trying. I'm like, this is bananas. And so I thought, I'm just an idiot in a sea of bigger idiots. Like so, I tried to flunk and tried to stay back. And then so they made the attempt, and I was gone for like 6 weeks. And even when I came back, I just didn't go to school. I didn't give a crap. But every teacher kept giving me A's because they knew if I was there, that's what I'd get. Except this one teacher that gave me D's. And I
Mhm.
had so much more respect for him, but I never told him that. But I like I respect him standing up for that. But it was, and again, the stigma of being inpatient. I remember waking up in the hospital. I'd been in like a coma for like 2 days, and I woke up, and the first nurse I saw was a mother of two of my friends in school, and I felt like, fuck, everyone's gonna know I failed. So I was more suicidal. I meet people that made one attempt in their life, didn't work, and it's like, oh my God, I see the light. I had this great experience. I don't need to do anything, and that has just never been, unfortunately, never been my path.
No,
Um,
me neither.
yeah. So I ended up being transferred to McLean's Hospital outside of Boston. At the time, I don't know if it's still supposed to be the world's best, and
It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were like
Yeah.
they were legit Saudi princes there with me, and I met and hearing about one guy was from Kuwait, one of the things I've never heard of before. It was all before Gulf War and stuff like that. But uh, I had a really bad experience with medication, so bad that they told my parents a friend must have smuggled in street drugs to me. As an adult, I got the records, and in all the records it says toxic reaction to the things they gave me.
Mm.
But if the people get the shakes with lithium sometimes, I had full body tremors. I was out for a walk and my legs stopped working, and people had to carry me back. And then that night, I had full tactile hallucinations of spiders walking up me. I'm like, I see it, I feel it, I know it's not real. And people just stayed up with me all night as I like described all the things I was seeing, and they gave me all sorts of neurological tests. Never came back to an answer with us. So my parents finally agreed. Like I left against medical advice because just the support I was getting was not helping me. So yeah, I know some people, and if meds work for you, great. But I've just had bad experiences with them. I'm not on anything now. I've been on antidepressants at times through my adult life, and often just to give me a new ceiling or a new
Yes.
floor rather,
Yep.
and yeah, and then they work. I can feel them, right? Yeah. Um, but yeah, I was sure that life was over. I was sure that everybody in school was talking about me, and I recently met someone I hadn't seen since high school last month, and she had no memory of me attempting things in my life. It was just hilarious. I'm like, wow, like I think we all assume other people are judging us, but everybody is judging themselves so much they really don't notice other people that much.
No, no, no. It's interesting, going on Facebook and getting reintroduced to people that I knew back in high school. And when I started to post about my own circumstances, about my life, I got so many people saying I had no clue. And I had had the same thing where I would have an attempt and then I'd be away at McLean Hospital and throughout high school, and nobody noticed. I mean, my friends did, of course. They came visit me, that kind of thing. They knew, but nobody else noticed.
Yeah, yeah. It's where we can be such a big deal in our minds for good and ill. But
Hmm.
yeah, but that's also people not noticing. That's kind of what fueled my attempts.
Mm.
Like, yeah, sure, the people that know me, you'll be upset for a few days, but then it's just like I moved. Like I really believe people would be better off. People wouldn't. My parents would be worried about me. Friends wouldn't be concerned if I disappear for time. You know, it's when my wife's best friend married one of my best friends, and then she tried to set us up. So we were set up on a blind date, but it wasn't even a date; it was just a meeting. And my wife was told that he's a sensitive guy. He's a really nice guy, and I hate that. Like I can call myself sensitive, but if I hear from someone else, it sounds like a put down still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's so interesting how when we're stuck in that mindset of people will be better off without me. I did the same thing throughout. So during my high school years, I was also putting my abuser in prison. So I was going through this, court system and being re-traumatized over and over and over again. And that mindset really comes in. I used to say to myself, well, I'll never make it past 15. I'll never make it past 18. I'll never make it past 25, and just kept going. Once the birthday hit,
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, I won't make it past 25,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it just keeps going. And it really does set us into this thought process that we just don't really matter to the rest of the world.
Yeah. And as I've gotten more into spirituality and energy work, I've done things like taking myself. Well, one thing, and I'll share this because I don't recommend it. There was a big time of like you couldn't trust childhood memories,
Mm-hmm.
and lots of things are just made up. So when I was 30, I went to a hypnotist to hypnotize me back to being 5 and 6 to see if I was actually molested,
Mm.
and that was horrible. Like there were more, like it took, 1, 2, 3, I was not back. Like she had to cancel her next appointment and keep working with me to get me like, I am not here. No, I'm still there. All I can see is that guy. And like, this is, get me the heck out of here. But so don't do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But again, we're there are so many mixed messages out there you can't that don't trust memories and things are made up. But it almost doesn't matter what really happened. It's the wound that we carry. It's the label that we each decide. Um, but I don't think anyone can go. Everybody's traumatized. It's all varying degrees, little T's, big T's, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's more, what do we decide that trauma meant? Like I didn't think I had depression. I thought I was depression. And periods of joy and when I was happy, I thought that was the lie, that was the illusion. So again, glad to be wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
Life is meant to be magnificent. Life is meant to be joyous. And it was really a big key for me was when I finally got that I was more than just this meat suit. I wasn't just a random collection of bad chemicals, which is what the first psychiatrist I ever talked to said. And he gave me like no hope, just like, oh, you're bad brain chemistry. Take these pills. Good luck. I was like, the fuck is that gonna do?
Yeah,
So
that's awful.
yeah. But I've also, when I was willing and wanted to get help, I've met some great people. And I used to I always counted the suicide attempts that ended up with me in a hospital. That those were all I considered were my attempts, and I think that's 5 or 6. But I met a doctor once who said, anytime you have the intention of harming yourself, that's a suicide attempt. And I don't know about you, but I just all the times driving drunk, all the times I would
Mm-hmm.
try to ram into a loading dock and didn't. Times I stood on top of a tall building and wanted to jump and didn't. Like I never counted those, but if I do, like I'm like, good God, I mean I've survived hundreds of attempts. If it's times that you wanted to, or again, thought you wanted to die.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I should really actually consider that
Yeah.
myself. But
Yeah, it can be a long, intimidating list if you
yeah,
really like, how was that? But it also can be liberating. But yeah, we are all meant to be here. We are all God, right? Life is meant to be joyous and magnificent and great. And we are the only person that can right our ship. And again, that's by taking responsibility for it. Nobody else can fix you. And mostly because I would say you're not broken, right? We're mistaken, we're lost, we're hurt, we're wounded, we're suffering. Usually more, again, I suffered more at my own thoughts than at anybody else's hand. Does that make sense? Yeah.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
And so the first book I ever wrote was about positive affirmations and like how to best use them because I took a positive psychology program and the professor was first like the one thing I can do is affirmations don't work and then I'm like no I discovered Louise Hay and affirmations like were one of the things that turned me around. The book You Can Heal Your Life was again the first time I heard like what like thoughts become things and my emotions aren't first and it's not chemicals that start it all, and so that was miraculous. But I wrote the affirmation stuff and all inspired because he said they didn't work. And what I love about affirmations and gratitude journaling, which is something else that therapists told me for 20 years before I finally decided to try it. And everything I do on a daily basis to keep myself sane and of service and alive and active are things I made fun of for years. I thought a gratitude journal meant, I was going to have my little princess, this sparkly pencil and glitter paper, and like, well, come on, this isn't real. But I've been maintaining a gratitude journal practice since like 2006 now. I have boxes and boxes full. I'm like, I can't, like, I don't look at them again, but I'm like, I don't throw them away somehow seems wrong too. So I don't know, maybe the A.F. Grant Presidential Library one day will have them all on display.
There you
But
go.
yeah, but what I love about affirmations and gratitude journaling, there's no barrier to entry. You don't need special training. You don't need anything like that. For me, affirmations, the power of them started trying to hold my own gaze in the mirror, which I could not do at the start. And then just saying, Andy, I love you.
Mhm.
And I could not do that. It took me weeks to be able to do that. And I suggest if you're a user of positive affirmations, if they're all easy to say, you need to change them. You know, that resistance that comes up, they're like, this isn't true, this is nonsense. To me, that's the healing.
Mm.
So choose affirmations that challenge you for things you don't really have, to let all the negative thoughts and bubble up, and that's how you can release them.
That's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I feel goofy when it happens, but I appreciate it happening. When I catch myself in the mirror, I'm like, hey, yeah, I love you. And it's just in my head and no one knows. And um, another secret weapon I have for my own happiness is skipping. When no
Mhm.
one's around, I'll like skip to my mailbox because I can't be in a bad mood and skip. It just and it's also like
Yeah.
why I love roller coasters. You to me, a way to prove that depression isn't just some chemical thing, put people in the front row of a roller coaster. They won't be worried about other things. Like
No.
you won't be depressed while you're going on the ride, right? So
No.
yeah, change your circumstances, and somehow your thinking, your attitude, that's all changing too.
Yeah.
And all circumstances are temporary, but I always get in the most trouble when I personalize circumstances, decide that they are a reflection of who I really am and that they won't change.
Mhm.
And that's the most damning place I can put myself.
Yeah. I find myself telling myself often, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
That we need to just, sit with our emotions, feel them. They're uncomfortable, but getting through them, you get on the other side of them. They
Yeah.
will not stay with you permanently.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that's important for many people to understand.
Emotions are energy in motion. They're meant to be felt. And when we allow ourselves to feel it, yeah, on the other side of every negative emotion is a better feeling place.
Right.
But we can stay in this torturous, depressed, apathetic place by just touching it and retreating. Um, I'm sure you've had, the dark night of the soul experiences, and in the dark, and just seems like I'm crying all night and just a mess. And uh, but then when I actually stop, and this helped me too, to not keep labeling things. So, oh, I was bawling all night. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, no, it was like 40 minutes. Okay, and so I no longer let a bad moment, a bad circumstance get labeled into a bad day, a bad weekend, a bad week, month, etc.
Well, we can catastrophize so much, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was with the inauguration, everything happening recently, it happened while I was in Africa. So every now and then I'd get online and I'd see it's the new golden age, it's the end of the world, and I'm just like, interesting,
Mm.
and didn't have to look any further. But I knew they were both referencing the same thing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Different perspectives, I guess.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. When did you decide that you wanted to focus on men specifically?
So I began energy coaching in 2010. 90% of my clients had always been women, but they all assumed because of how I looked that I had this like army of men that I was helping somewhere, and they just didn't exist. Especially when it comes to energy work, spiritual work, I find that women are much more willing to go there. They're much braver. They're willing to act. Guys are doing it more and more, but it was that notion, and I kept getting called like I got to do something for men. I don't know what it is. And then I got in 2016, I got a healing called a life activation, and that is literally when more light is brought into your physical body, and
Wow.
it lightens up your spiritual DNA, and it makes your purpose more obvious to you, and it's like what you're meant to do is attractive to you, and you're more attracted to it. And 3 weeks later, Real Men Feel was born.
Wow.
And during that healing, I was like, I remember still, I don't know what's going on here, but I know I'm going to learn how to do this, and I did, and I had a full career change. That was a healing from the modern mystery school, over 3,000-year-old lineage going back to King Solomon, Solomon's temple, Solomon, son of David, slayer of Goliath, all these biblical figures. Um, it's argued, it's debated that this is while Jesus Christ was kind of missing from between birth and being 30, he was training in the mystery schools.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Wow. So the mystery schools are ancient.
yep.
So did they come with scriptures? Is there something
So
specific about it?
there were 7 ancient mystery schools, and they still exist. The only one that's open to the public, it's called the Modern Mystery School. It opened to the public in 1997, I believe. Um, whew, uh, they all have different tasks and roles, and like I have Doctor Strange behind me here, and like if his story, he went into a mystery school. That's where he learned all of his magic and mystical arts. But the foundation of the mystery school is reminding people that they are God. You're divine. I'm divine. We create this experience, right? And we can rise above. There's talk of like the tipping point and how many percent of people need to be, wake up and realize that, they can change the world, that they can choose the light over the dark, good over evil. And I've heard it's like just 3% did it and it would change the world and open an era of peace and love and Shambhala and the Garden of Eden is all around us. And, so that stuff is interesting, but the real tactile things are, again, the life activation. There's a remote healing called Spark of Life that I recently did for someone. She had broken 6 bones in her back, was told the only solution was surgery, and she knew there must be something else. And I said, well, I have this healing that's meant for physical things. Like, let's see what's up. And she's not had pain since that healing. And now it's been like 3 months.
Wow.
She went 8 months daily pain. Now it's gone. So
That's amazing.
yeah, I'm like, wow, like that blew me away. So some of these things are so powerful. During COVID, all of the mystery school initiates began doing the Spark of Life on anybody that was in a hospital, anybody on ventilation, and they all went home. Every single one.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's all just anecdotal. I wish we had had the foresight to like document and name and find out and prove all this, but it's just anecdotal. But it's tangible, it's real, and yeah. So that's how I'm of the most service now. That's the majority of the work I do with people are all various healings and rituals from the Modern Mystery School.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I have to definitely take a good look into that. So with the podcast, how did it come about for you?
So, like I said, after the life activation, it got clarity, and it began with me and a friend of mine, Appio Hunter. He was a gay Mormon man, and I thought, oh, we'll have a nice like dichotomy, and it opens up to all sorts of topics. So it began with just us talking, and then by like the 4th episode, people wanted to be guests. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And when it started, my goal was to at least make it to 3 episodes before I quit.
Hmm.
Because again, my history, do something that gets hard, I quit. But now I'm up to like episode 340. Appio dropped off. We were together for like the first 100, and now it's just been me. It was mostly just a time commitment for Appio. But yeah, all those old episodes are still there. Every now and then I'll meet someone that I just found you this week, and they'll go back and start, in 2016. I'm like, God, don't. Like, I'm like, God, I wouldn't want to go start in my past and through it all again. But yeah, the thing about podcasting, I'm surprised how many friends I have that were first podcast guests or something. And I forget that's how that I met. And even in the New England podcast group that we're both part of, like, it's so cool to go be in person with people, and not just everything is Zoom or via every other mediums, and that there is such a community and culture of sharing and support in the podcasting world that continues to surprise me.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm just starting to feel that as I meet more and more people in the community. And again, community, how important is that? It's another thing that comes up all the time in the podcast is community being so important for just about any like life experience. You can find people that have experienced the same things that you have, are interested in the same things that you have. And, that's I'm not feeling so alone anymore when I start to dive into community. When I get depressed, I'll pull myself back and I won't, I won't leave the house, but, learning to bring myself out just even for one group gathering can really
Yeah.
make a big difference.
Yeah. And the impact that episodes can make on other people, that's so there have been 2 times in the last 6 years that I've taken, like, I think, an 8 month stop and then even a full year stop, and not planned, just I've had enough. I'm done. And I'll get emails from men all around the world going, I'm a fan of your show. I know your history. I just want to see if you're okay.
Oh,
And I'm getting choked up already. Um, and I read that at a time that I was trying to convince myself that I had no impact, nothing I'm doing matters. Why do I bother? And anytime I think that now, something shows up. Here's why you bother. And I don't have it next to me. So there's something I advise clients, and I have it. I have a specific special journal that I call Evidence of My Magnificence.
oh, I love
It has,
that.
yeah, it's where I print out the reviews, the feedback from that one person, the thank you card. It's all just full of that. So, and the idea is that when you're feeling pointless and useless, you open that evidence of your magnificence, and you can't keep lying to yourself when you're reminded by that positive impact that you have made on the world.
Yeah, that is so, so powerful. It's amazing. So there's so much that you work with. What is you had said that working with people, what was the light?
Oh, the
The
life activation?
the life activation.
Yeah.
That's probably, you said that was the biggest thing that you work with people. Are there
Yeah,
any other parts that you like to work with people?
well, so that opens up more things. Another really cool thing I do is soul retrieval.
Hmm.
Anyone that's had a near-death experience, a big traumatic experience, it truly makes a bit of our soul splinter off and like run for cover.
Wow.
And soul retrieval is inviting it back. And when I've received this, has been amazing. It's yeah, it's just amazing. It's one of those things that can't be described. Everybody's had amazing experiences when they receive it, because it's not like the hurt comes back. It's not like memories come back. It's just you feel a new sense of wholeness and completeness. And it's a shamanic ritual that, back when people were more in tuned with all that is, shamans made sure that everybody had this soul retrieval before they passed, so that all of them was together to pass on to the next step. Mhm. But it's not something that's only for senior citizens or something. It's anytime you feel that. But especially when I meet people that say they've had a near death experience, I would go, you might want to look at this. Mhm.
Hmm.
But what you would ask about the scriptures and things of the mystery school. What's unique about the modern mystery school is that it is all mouth to ear. It is all taught live. The majority of healings can only be done in person. So whenever when I'm on podcasts and talking to a global audience, when people reach out to me, like, I'll play matchmaker. I'll find someone near them. They go, here's someone out there. Go connect with them. Get this. If I ruled the world, everybody would get a life activation, because what this world needs is more people on their purpose,
Hmm.
more people full of and shining and sharing their light.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's all the things that, you're like, oh, we're stardust, we're beings of light. Like, I'm like, oh, nonsense. I'm like, oh my God, it's true. Now I have real experiences of this, and it isn't nonsense. And it's not just woo woo and crazy stuff. It's been there for thousands and thousands of years. Uh, the mystery school was created in Solomon's temple over 3,000 years ago. For 40 years, he had all these different healers and shamans from around the world teach each other and do their rituals and healings on each other. And only what worked for everybody and that could be learned by everybody and didn't come with some specific dogma of belief, that became all the healings in the mystery school.
Wow.
Yeah. So
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, you can't buy a book. You can't watch a YouTube video. It's it's just a human being passes it down to you in person. And again, I used to think like, wow, that's so inefficient and silly, but it's different. Um,
It's how it was meant to be.
yeah,
It's
again, well, back to community.
communication. Yep.
Yeah, right.
Communication with community.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me, what advice would you give someone that, is in the depths right now, who they're feeling, suicidal ideations are coming and they're not sure where to go next?
Yeah. Don't keep it a secret.
Mhm.
Find someone safe that you can admit how low you are feeling. And if you don't have someone in your life that you can do that with, if you don't feel safe with that, call the suicide prevention line. Like I've called them and just like, I just feel like this and they're listening. There's not judgment, but again, I find the worst place for those suicidal ideation thoughts, those punishing thoughts, is staying in our head. That rumination, voicing it, even writing it down. Find a way to get it out of you. Another just a tool I love is a rebounder, those little mini trampolines.
Yeah.
So I use that, and even Tony Robbins, Brenda Bouchard, they all use this before they go on stage to get them psyched up. Because in that moment of it's like it's like skipping. I can't be miserable in that brief moment of weightlessness, and that just this childish joy comes up, and I'll do that between clients to kind of clear my space. But there are so many little simple things you can do. And again, gratitude is powerful, and I know when I've been depressed and sure that I believed I wanted to die, there was nothing to be grateful for. Nothing, nothing. Only when someone forced me. I'm like, all right, I'm grateful I have this pen. Fine. Like, whatever, but start with something. And it might be, after you tell someone how bad you're feeling, because silence kills.
Yeah.
Speaking, sharing, that's what keeps us alive.
Mhm.
Right? But yeah, find a way to let someone know. Don't hide how bad you're feeling. And if someone comes to you and tells you, like, again, everyone has the ideas. Plenty of people have ideas. If someone is set up to take action, that's different. So if someone is saying, like, I'm sitting here with a gun in my hand, then that's when you offer to take them to the ER, offer
Mhm.
to help them get somewhere if you're physically near someone. But the thoughts, it's nothing to freak out about. Just listen. You don't have to say anything. Just understand.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Where can we find you?
Right here. My main site is theandygrant.com. So you don't suffer for a false Andy Grant, but THE, theandygrant.com. That's where you find information on my books, my coaching. I got some online classes. I've got a cool class I made like 10 years ago on the power of gratitude. And it's on Udemy. It's like $9.99. And every now and then, just someone in the world like, this is amazing. And like, oh, I forgot I had that. But it's all, content creation. It's all out there. And you can learn more about Real Men Feel, the podcast there as well. But Real Men Feel also has its own realmenfeel.org is the site for that. I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. The Andy Grant on Instagram is me. Real Men Feel Show is the Real Men Feel Show on Instagram.
And that will all be in the show notes so that everybody can feel the power of Andy.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being on tonight.
Yeah, and I want to let people know that I was a half hour off. So thank you for putting up with my brain fart and not knowing how to tell time anymore.
You know me, I'm laid back about that stuff. Thank you. I am so happy that Andy came on the show. He has so much wisdom, and he's not alone in his experiences with suicidality and mental health. As he said, there are many of us who have gone through similar experiences in our lives, and it is important to remember we are not alone. Andy's journey of finding healing and emotional authenticity is a true testament to the power of our own human souls. I highly recommend checking out Andy's award-winning podcast, Real Men Feel. The stories you will hear and the guests on the show know the power of our emotions and learning that they are giving us the information we need, and that they too shall pass.